In the Caribbean Sea, Julia and Tom are enjoying a yacht trip with their children, Cassie and Ben. While father and son practice fishing, Cassie listens to music on her headphones and Julia decides to go for a swim near the ship. Suddenly, a strong current begins to pull her and, within a few minutes, she realizes that the yacht is too far away. Desperate, Julia screams for help from her family, but Cassie can't hear her and Ben is distracted trying to catch a fish. Luckily, Tom hears his wife's screams and speeds up the ship to reach her. He then jumps into the sea, brings Julia back and, after this scare, she says she doesn't know why the current pulled her in, as the sea seemed to be calm. Even so, Tom is relieved that his wife is okay and warns everyone not to try to swim away from the ship. Later, the family gathers around the table to celebrate Ben's 13th birthday, starting with the delivery of presents. The young man gets a new laptop from his father, a jellyfish mask from his sister and a Dominican necklace from his mother to protect him from bad spirits. Afterwards, the four of them take a photo together and prepare to cut the cake, until Cassie receives a video call from her boyfriend Adam. The young man is anxious to see his girlfriend, but his call is interrupted when the camera shows a strong storm around the city. Cassie finds this strange, as she's never seen a storm like it and warns her parents about it. However, at the same moment, everyone hears sounds approaching and realizes that they are humpback whales swimming close to the yacht. They seem to be migrating somewhere and one of them ends up colliding with the ship, forcing Tom to take a look at the hull to see if there has been any damage. Minutes after entering the water, he emerges saying that he has been injured by some marine animal. He can't say what it was, but the attack left a deep gash in his shoulder and Julia rushes to bandage it. To make matters worse, one of the propellers has been damaged by the whales, and now they'll need help to tow the yacht back to port. Julia tries to send an emergency call on the radio, but no one gets back to her and the cell phones are out of range. They can only hope that help comes soon, because according to Tom's estimate, the family only has resources for 4 days. Everything only gets more complicated when they see a flash coming from the sky, as if they were meteorites. One of them falls very close to the ship and Tom tries to start it, but with the second propeller damaged, the engine can't cope and ends up overheating. When he looks more closely, he realizes that they are not meteorites, but pieces of satellites, with more of them coming towards the yacht. Tom quickly embraces his wife and children to use his body to protect them, but fortunately the object doesn't hit the ship. Still, it's too dangerous to be outside, so the family goes into the cabin and closes all the doors and windows, but the impact of the satellites causes the yacht to lose control. The movement of the ship causes Ben to hurt himself and his parents help him up, leaving him safely on the sofa. Tom then equips his children with lifeboats and struggles to reach the radio to call for help, but a strong storm breaks out, causing the ship to rock even more. The whole situation makes Julia bleed from the nose and Cassie feels increasingly nauseous. Ben also suffers severe discomfort and tries to run towards his room, but the ship keeps rocking and he stumbles on the stairs. Faced with the force of nature, Julia and Tom help their children, and the four of them gather in the cabin waiting for the storm to end. After hours of tension, the family wakes up the next morning safe, but the ship has been seriously damaged. The four of them leave the cabin and go to check what has happened, but to everyone's amazement, they find the ship in the middle of a huge barren wasteland. Not only that, but it seems that the entire ocean has been washed away to another part of the planet, leaving only a gigantic desert. Tom suspects that just as happened 700,000 years ago, the planet's poles have reversed, changing the position of the seas and the land. If this is true, there's a good chance that millions of people have lost their lives due to the giant waves of ocean movement on the surface. On hearing this, Cassie despairs, fearing that something bad has happened to Adam, and locks herself in the ship's bedroom. Her parents try to calm her down, but they can't waste any more time and set off to repair the ship and stockpile as much water and food as possible. Ben also decides to help and uses the balloons from his birthday, tied to a rope, to act as a signal in case there are any survivors nearby. At the same time, Tom manages to fix the radio and tries to make contact once again, when he gets a call back from a guy called Now. He claims to be the captain of a submarine that was exploring the depths of the sea, but which, due to the reversal of the poles, ran aground in the middle of the earth. The captain also says that this event could be a natural phenomenon, in response to the acts of pollution and environmental destruction caused by humans. What's more, his submarine's computer indicates that this event will be repeated in just under a week. As a result, the ocean will return to its natural state, destroying everything in its path. Now advises the family to find the highest place possible, otherwise they will have no chance of surviving the colossal impact of the water. Before ending the call, Tom asks if the submarine would be able to withstand the impact and Now believes it is possible, but there is only room for 3 people. Fearing for their children's lives, the couple beg him to let Cassie and Ben stay on the submarine to ensure their survival. He does accept and gives them the coordinates of his location, which is 3 days' journey from where they are. Now that they've found a solution, Tom tells his family to rest for the night because the next morning, they'll start the journey to the submarine. At dawn, the group gathers as much food and water as they can carry until Tom sees a mysterious man approaching the ship. He promptly goes up to the guy, who is carrying a harpoon and accompanied by a dog. As a token of goodwill, Tom offers him a bottle of water, but as soon as he finishes drinking, the guy knocks Tom down with one blow and then hits him with the harpoon. Seeing this, Julia runs desperately to help her husband, but the criminal finishes Tom off with a blow to his throat. Helpless to do anything, the woman runs to warn her children, but the man with the harpoon throws his weapon, hitting Julia in the shoulder. Even though she's wounded, she runs to the ship and locks herself inside with her children, while the criminal approaches and tries to force his way in. Inside, Julia hands Cassie and Ben a flare gun and tells them to hide in the compartment under the sofa. She then locks herself in the bathroom, taking a knife with her to defend herself. Seconds later, the guy manages to break into the boat and grabs a can of food while looking for the survivors. At this point, Julia makes a makeshift bandage on her shoulder and waits for the criminal, who gets closer and closer to the bathroom. Finally, he opens the door expecting to find someone, but at the last second, Julia manages to escape through an opening in the ship's hull. The problem is that outside, she comes across the dog, which starts barking to warn its owner. The animal then advances towards Julia, who has no choice but to strike it with a blade. When he hears his pet's sounds of pain, he runs to see where the dog is and finds its body on the floor. This only infuriates him more and he sets off to find Julia, who manages to sneak onto the ship from the front. Inside, she is looking for her children when she is attacked by the man, who strikes her in the face and knocks her to the ground. Soon after, the man starts pulling Julia by the legs, but she fights back with a direct kick to a very painful area. She tries to take the knife back, but the villain doesn't give up, and as well as disarming her, he throws her face against the ground, injuring her nose. The confrontation continues, with Cassie and Ben watching everything but not knowing what to do. Finally, the guy takes another swing at Julia's face, presses her against the sofa and starts twisting her neck. Unable to stand the situation any longer, Cassie pulls out her flare gun, opens the compartment in the sofa and fires a shot, hitting the guy squarely. What's more, the gunshot causes a fire in the kitchen and Julia rushes to get the groceries before everything is destroyed. As soon as she picks up the backpack, the criminal tries to attack her again, but she strikes back with a direct kick to his face. She then rushes to meet her children, who see their father's body and hug him, asking him to react. Tragically, Tom has lost his life and the family will not be able to mourn his body, as the man with the harpoon is still alive and walking towards them. The three of them then run towards the mountains, and as soon as they manage to get some distance, they stop for a while to recover their energy. Ben, however, is still tormented by what happened to his father and feels guilty, believing that the signal from the balloons attracted the criminal to the ship. However, their mother assures them that he is not responsible and promises to take the children safely away. After this brief respite, the three of them resume their journey towards the submarine, until a few minutes later, Ben encounters a hammerhead shark, which won't be able to resist for long due to the lack of water. His mother tells him to keep moving, because when she looks through her binoculars, he sees the criminal walking towards them. The family hurries to get out of there, and along the road, they find several signs of human pollution, such as scattered oil barrels and plastic bottles everywhere. More hours pass and Ben begins to feel ill from the effects of dehydration. His mother rushes to get the bottle of water, but because of Cassie's carelessness, she didn't close the lid properly, and now there are only a few drops left to drink. Julia is furious with her daughter for her mistake, because without water they won't be able to survive until the end of the journey. The two begin to argue, with the girl saying that the whole journey is pointless, but Julia reprimands the girl for saying this and tells everyone to keep going. Finally, the trio find a crashed plane in the middle of the desert and decide to use it as a shelter for the rest of the day. As soon as she sits down on one of the benches, Julia looks at the photo they took on Ben's birthday and misses her late husband terribly. Cassie seizes the opportunity and asks her mother to tell her how they met. Julia tells her that she met Tom during her internship as a doctor in a hospital, where he had to be treated because of an accident in his college field research. Julia took care of him, and as soon as he regained consciousness, Tom fell in love with her at first sight and the two began a relationship. Due to his course, Tom had to return to Germany, but within a few months, he returned with a job opportunity in Miami. The only condition for taking the job was that Julia accepted, so he asked her to marry him. Without thinking twice, she accepted and the couple built a happy life together. but everything is falling apart after Tom is eliminated by the same man who is now persecuting his family. After hearing the whole story, the three of them cry with longing for Tom and try to rest for the rest of the day. More hours pass and Julia and Ben are asleep, while Cassie wakes up and goes to do her business outside the plane. Without her realizing it, the man sneaks up on her and approaches her slowly, ready to attack her. What he didn't realize was that Julia had also woken up, and without wasting any time, she attacks the guy in the back with the knife, followed by a sharp blow to the heart. Not satisfied with seeing the man who took her husband's life wounded, Julia begins to strike him repeatedly, unleashing all her fury. Cassie watches her mother's rage in shock, then hugs her so that she can drop the weapon and come to her senses. Finally, the stalker was eliminated and the family could rest easy for the rest of the night. However, the next day, they go to check on the man's body and realize that it has been destroyed by some animal. Julia fears that there is something or someone even more dangerous than the criminal nearby and tells her children to continue their journey. In the intense heat, Ben starts to walk alone and runs into a puddle full of contaminated water. Without hesitation, the young man starts drinking it, forcing his mother and sister to pull him back before he gets sick. After this incident, the two take him to a field full of chairs and set up a makeshift camp with them. Julia then uses a medicine on her son to prevent him from getting sick from the water. Unable to continue their walk, the three of them return to rest, until Julia hears strange noises coming from far away. The sound gets closer and closer and seems to be paws moving at high speed. With no time to lose, Julia wakes up her children and the three of them run for safety. After climbing a hill, they find a camp with survivors set up on a stranded cargo ship. Julia asks for help, but the guys, armed with pistols and shotguns, refuse and hide inside the cargo containers. Desperate, she shouts at them to open the door and warns them that the creatures, which resemble huge crabs, are coming. But the survivors continue to refuse, and Julia orders her children to climb the containers before they are caught by the sea creatures. Then it's Julia's turn to climb, but one of the creatures attacks her, leaving her foot injured. Luckily, she manages to climb up just in time and the three of them try to stay safe on top of the container. The same can't be said for the survivors, as the creatures manage to break through the gaps in the bodywork and wipe them all out. At the same time, Julia ends up fainting due to the wound on her foot and wakes up the next day, but her children are not around. She sets off after them, and soon finds Cassie, who has gone to look for help, but has found no one alive. The family then explores the site in search of supplies and finds the survivors' weapons. Using the gunpowder from the ammunition, Julia sets fire to the wound on her leg to prevent it from becoming infected. After that, she turns on the radio and talks to Now about what happened to Tom and the sea creatures she found. Now explains that these animals are arthropods, beings that come from the depths of the sea and are trying to adapt to their new environment. Due to the high amount of oxygen, the creatures become more aggressive and will destroy anyone who crosses their path. He then asks the group to hurry, because in addition to the arthropods, the submarine's readers indicate that the sea will return sooner than expected. In just a few hours, the whole region will be covered in water, and if they don't get there in time, they'll be caught by the force of the sea. To help them find their destination, Now fires a signal shot and thanks to this, Julia knows where to go. The way there is a huge ravine with narrow stone paths. Still, the family continues on, but in the middle of their journey, a rockfall begins. One of them is about to fall on Cassie and Ben, but Julia pushes them away, saving their lives. However, the rocks have created a barrier between the mother and the kids and there is no way of climbing. Despite this, Julia tells her children to keep going in order to save themselves, and even though they refuse to leave her, Julia insists that she will find a way to find them. The kids then rush to reach the submarine, and when they get there, they find Now, who is badly injured. It seems that he too has been attacked by the arthropods, and because of the loss of blood, he doesn't have long to live. Even so, he intends to keep the siblings safe inside the submarine and offers his place to their mother. When Cassie hears this, she rushes to bring Julia back, so Ben gives her the necklace his mother gave him as a present, so that she will be protected. Cassie then runs back into the ravine, just as Julia hears the sound of the arthropods arriving. With the shotgun she picked up at the campsite, she fires at the creatures, but she are outnumbered and her ammunition is almost gone. With no hope of escaping this situation, Julia just waits for it to end, but Cassie appears from the top of the rocks. She holds out her arm to her mother and tells her that there is one seat left on the submarine. Julia then musters up all her strength and climbs the rocks, with the help of her daughter. After that, the two run towards the submarine, with hundreds of arthropods on their trail, and find Now, already lifeless. Meanwhile, the whole place begins to be surrounded by sea creatures and Julia, along with Cassie and Ben, enter the submarine. Inside, They see a huge wave approaching through the window and rush to take their seats and put on their seatbelts. Finally, the sea covers the entire desert region, pushing the submarine with all its might. Not knowing if they will survive, Julia remembers the traumatic event that took Tom's life, as well as the criminal who chased them halfway. These thoughts are mixed with the dread caused by the power of the sea, which continues to rock the submarine from side to side. The family, however, doesn't intend to give up now, and holding each other's hands, they resist the force of nature and hope that they can survive another day. After hours of uncertainty, the family wakes up to the feeling that the submarine has run aground. Julia opens the top hatch and the three of them find themselves in front of a city, completely destroyed by the huge waves. With her children safe and sound, Julia hugs them, relieved after seeing a family trip turn into a survival nightmare. In a final audio recording, Julia says that despite everything, she, Ben and Cassie have become stronger after this experience. Not only that, but she believes that the whole thing was a punishment from the planet against humans, who continue to destroy and exploit natural resources. It seems that nature has managed to clean up the mess and punished humanity for its mistakes. Despite this, the survivors will have the chance to restart their lives and follow a different path. Maybe now, after a tragedy of global proportions, humans can finally live in perfect harmony with the environment. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.